it just seems so extraordinary.
A Massachusetts man is recovering from what he says is a shark attack on Cape Cod. It happened at a beach in Truro, and that's where WBC's Beth Germano is. She has this man's unsettling story. Beth?
Good afternoon, Virginia. A really gorgeous afternoon here on Cold Storage Beach in Truro. And no, the news did not keep people away. As you can see behind me, still some beachgoers hugging the shoreline. Yes, there were swimmers today, and also a few more staff just keeping an eye on things. We know James Orlowski was bit by something. He says a blue shark. Nobody really knows for sure.
I think that it was, one of the explanations I heard was that it was a tuna fish, and I believed that before I believed that it was a shark.
I don't know whether it was a shark or what it would be. I'd be very surprised that it was a shark.
I got 20 stitches here, and I have 26 stitches there from the teeth marks.
James Orlowski says he did see a fin and has deep gashes to prove it. He was just off the shoreline at Cold Storage Beach in search of seashells, but found something else 6 to 7 feet long.
I was on the tail end of my vacation.
Holiday road, holiday road, holiday
road. The population of Truro is about 3,000 in the winter, maybe goes to about 25 to 30,000 in the summertime. It's a little quiet little community that's mainly a tourist town that relies on tourists and their beaches for the income in the summertime.
We had our breakfast around 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was just out on the deck sitting there reading the newspaper when Janice, my girlfriend, came out and said, "Jim," she says, "I need some more shells." She says, "I'm running out. I'm doing my arrangement." She says, "It's low tide. You know how all the shells are out on the sandbar and stuff?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Here's a plastic bag." I says, "All right." I said, "I'll be back in about an hour." I said, "I'll go down and get some shells." I was probably out 100 yards by this stone thing in the water they call the ice house, I guess. And I was probably waist high, a little bit higher than waist high water. All of a sudden, it was an eerie feeling. As I was walking, I felt something like brush up against my side, and I thought I had walked into some seaweed. As I'm walking, wow, seaweed. And obviously it was a shark swimming by me and brushing me, because just a few seconds later, as my foot went to hit the bottom of the floor, I felt it clamping on my foot, which was the shark. And it pulled me down onto my rump, and I immediately stood up, and the thing, it had me by the foot, and I just kind of panicked, and I just started swinging, punching at it, and I hit it in the eye, not aiming for the eye, but I just happened to hit it in the eye, which is obviously a vulnerable spot on a shark. As soon as I hit it in the eye, it kind of squealed, almost sounded like a pig squealing, and it released me and kind of slithered away. I looked down after the shark released me and saw the blood just coming up to the surface of the ocean, and I just thought in my mind, I have to get out of here. I said, I'm bleeding profusely. I says, I have to get out of this water. You know, water makes cuts bleed more too. And I really didn't feel any pain. You know, it was just the adrenaline in me, the shock of it all. And somehow I got myself out of the ocean, up onto the hill, through my girlfriend's living room, through her kitchen, leaving a pool of blood, and collapsed on her deck. And that's the last thing I remember until the hospital.
It was a Sunday morning. I received a 911 call from a male subject stating that he had just been attacked by a shark at one of the local beaches. I asked him exactly where he was, if he was in the water or on the beach, and he told me that he was back at his cottage and he was bleeding very heavily, and I just told him that, you know, to stay where he was and that I would have the rescue squad respond and to help him out in any way they could.
We got a call, a person that was bit by a shark. Responded myself as well as rescue to a location on Shore Road where there was an individual laying on the back deck bleeding from both legs. He had claimed that he had been at Cold Storage Beach about 15 or 20 minutes earlier and was walking in the water, and a shark grabbed his leg. He was able to fight it off and got back into his car and drove to his cottage where he was staying and called for help.
He didn't seem to be too frantic. He was calm considering what he had described to me what had happened. He just was real nervous about the fact that he had been attacked by a shark and that he was bleeding and really didn't know what to do. He told me that he left the beach and he went back to his cottage, which was, you know, a couple of miles away. It must have took a lot for him to do that.
Well, when I got to the scene, there was a large amount of blood on the back deck. He did have some sort of cuts to his legs, at which time the rescue squad was attending to them and starting to bandage them up. I then went to the beach, Cold Storage Beach, to see what was going on. It was an overcast day. It was a little chilly. So there was no one on the beach other than one couple seemed to be walking to the left-hand side of the main beach, at which time we notified the beach superintendent, and they closed Cold Storage Beach for that day to make sure that no other one else went into the water, just in case there was something there that could hurt them still.
The day of the attack, I was on the beach warning people out of the water, and there were news crews and reporters here, and my boss was here frequently, saw me talking to them. He never said not to tell what I knew. That was basically all he ever said about it, was not to overly excite or scare people, just to tell them exactly what I knew and what had happened.
We're treating it as a very rare occurrence, but we are keeping our eye out on it.
Initially, I didn't get admitted to the hospital. Initially, what happened was they brought me to a health clinic in Wellfleet, and they cleaned the wound and they stitched me up and bandaged me and gave me crutches and prescriptions for pain and for infection, and said, come back in 2 days and we'll change the dressing. That night, my foot swelled up like a balloon and started turning blue and black and red and different colors. And next morning, Janice looked at my foot and says, Jim, you can't make it another 2 days. I said, we're going to take you back right now to the doctor. So when we got back to the Wellfleet Medical Center, they cut the bandages off my foot, and they says, Mr. Orlowski, Jim, you have a problem here. They put me in an ambulance and shipped me off to Cape Cod Hospital.
A follow-up to the man who says he was attacked by a shark off Cape Cod this week. Tonight, James Orlowski is back in the hospital. Orlowski was admitted to get antibiotics. The wounds in one of his legs has now become infected. Orlowski told authorities he was attacked by a blue shark in Truro,
where they took the stitches out and re-cleaned it, and because sharks have a lot of bacteria in their mouth, a major infection set in, so they put me on liquid antibiotics, intravenous, which I was hooked up to for 8 days to reduce the infection. As a matter of fact, when I was in the hospital, my very first day, I put the TV on. What's on TV? Jaws. Couldn't believe it. The original Jaws, the best one of them all.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I think really that was a lot of people's feeling, was that it had never happened before. People hadn't even seen a shark so close that I remember. It just seemed so extraordinary that not only would there be a shark so close, but that someone would have been attacked and severely injured, and I think that was most people's feeling about it.
Highly unlikely. In these waters, at that depth, this time of year, the occasions are exceedingly rare. I'm not aware of another one, actually.
I don't know whether it was a shark or what it would be. I'd be very surprised that it was a shark.
I'd be very, very surprised if it was a shark. I think it's more of like a bluefish.
Might have been a bluefish.
I think a lot of people are leaning towards the tuna fish explanation.
I'm not really sure. There are small sharks in the water. They're called sand sharks. There's also a peculiar looking fish that swims in the bay. It's called a goosefish, which has a very wide mouth. I never saw the shark bite. I never saw the victim. It's hard to say what it could have really been.
Well, there's never been one around. I think the latest one's probably around 1938 or whatever, around the area. There was one a long time ago, a hammerhead supposedly in Wellfleet that did some damage. So, a lot of the local people have been swimming for years and have not come across one. That's probably one of the reasons why there was a hard time believing it.
General opinion is that he wasn't the most trustworthy character, and I don't know enough personally to have a real opinion on it, but I think he was probably just confused, in shock. I mean, quite obviously something attacked him. I think he, more than lying, that he just isn't really sure of what it is himself, what it was himself, and I never spoke to him. I never saw him. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not, or telling the truth as best he remembers it. But he seems to. I've heard that he changed his story, that he wasn't exactly sure of the details. I think that makes it a little less believable for some people.
I don't know why they're trying to discredit me, because the damage is there. It was shown. I mean, pictures of my foot all mangled were there. Whether I get by a minnow or a whale or a shark, the damage was done. But I know what I saw. I know I saw the head of a shark attached to my foot. I know it. Plain and simple. Yeah, people are saying bluefish, but bluefish have like pins for teeth. So my wound would have showed a bunch of pin marks, whereas I have a cut here, a cut here, a cut here, and a cut here, which are 4 distinctive teeth. A bluefish would be polka dots. Bluefish don't have 4 teeth like this. And this shark expert from Florida, his name is George Burgess, he's been studying sharks now for 25, 30 years, and he took the head of a baby great white, dead, its teeth, and put ink marks on the teeth, and took a mannequin's foot and impressioned it on it, and it had the same exact pattern as the picture of my foot. So in his determination, which was documented on CBS Primetime, World's Most Dangerous Animals, he says, in my opinion, Mr. Orlowski was bitten by a shark. In my opinion, it was probably a small baby great white.
I had no reason to doubt him. He was in obvious pain. He seemed to, tell the story the right way. Whether it happened or not, I can't tell. I didn't see it happen, but I do know it wasn't any animal bites that I've ever seen on his leg before, and I've never seen a shark bite before that.
Second day in the hospital, I get the paper and I'm reading. 90 miles away in Beverly, they caught a 20-foot great white in a fishing net and pulled it into shore. They said, there's no sharks in these waters. 90 miles away, they showed a picture of it dead. They dragged it in, fishermen in a fishing net. No sharks in these waters? What's this one doing 90 miles away, 20 feet long? Please. It almost reminds me of Jaws.
What does that mean?
I'm only trying to say that Amity is a summer town. We need summer dollars. If people can't swim here, they'll be glad to swim at the beaches of Cape Cod, the Hamptons, Long Island.
That doesn't mean we have to serve them up a smorgasbord.
We never had that kind of trouble in these waters.
And remember, Truro is a tourist attraction town, and in the middle of the summer, when people are coming to Truro for the beaches, and you start saying that there's a shark attack or someone could get bit by a shark out to the beach, not many people are going to come to Truro. So you have to take, that's the reason why Truro didn't want any publicity over it.
I think that it's very possible that if it had been a child or a local that had been attacked, people would have believed it. Probably more a local than a child, because children also get confused easily and don't exactly know. But I think the fact that he wasn't from around here, no one knew him, I think that made him less credible. People would have, I think, believed very easily someone who was from around here, that they knew that, I'm not exactly sure how to put it, but I think that because it's such a small community, people really know each other, and they have an easier time trusting people that they know.
I mean, this happened 2 years ago. I haven't been to the ocean since. Not that I don't want to go to the ocean, it's just that last year for my vacation, I did something different than going to Cape Cod. It's something that I do like every 5 years. But I will go back to the ocean. You know, my chances of getting bit by a shark, or my chances of getting struck by lightning is probably greater than getting bit by a shark again. You know, it will be in my mind a little bit as I go into the water. But I will go back into the ocean. Yes, I will.
Nobody's asked me, but I think it was a shark.
Oh, you do?
I've done a scientific study on it.
Now, the other day you said you thought it was a bluefish.
Yeah, but when he said he hit it in the eye, you know, bluefish are not that big. Not that big.
Well, now you've made me feel a lot better and more secure. Thanks, Jack.
It's hard to say what it could have really been. You know, it's a mystery still, I think.